Here in Manchester, New Hampshire, it's New Hampshire primary day. You're here with Congressman Frank Guinta of the New Hampshire 1. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
How is it today? How do you feel about your state? How do you feel about this process? Is it an exciting day?
Well, First in the Nation primary is something we take very seriously in New Hampshire and vigorously protect it because it gives us the opportunity to talk with every single candidate, give them the opportunity to state the case as to why they should be the next president of the United States. So I'm enjoying it. I love politics. I appreciate being
I hope so.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate the process. I love being here in New Hampshire and watching this process unfold and getting the opportunity to meet each and every candidate and specifically look them in the eye and ask them questions that maybe national media wouldn't ask or either people in other states wouldn't ask. So it's a great thing.
Here on NRA News, of course, Second Amendment, very important. I know it's very important to you. Talk about what you did with the Second Amendment on the House floor.
Well, I was fortunate enough in my first several days in Congress to be part of a group that read the Constitution on the floor of the House, something that has never happened. Something I think that Americans ought to understand is critical, that this is first and foremost about the Constitution.
But why did the other side think that that was a gimmick?
Well, the other side, I think, thought it was a gimmick because, number one, it had never been done. Number two, some of them made statements that it wasn't important. And that's the fundamental problem with this country. When you have people elected to Congress who are referring to the Constitution as unimportant, that pains me, and it should pain every American. Because regardless of your party affiliation, you should have the Constitution, you should follow the Constitution. It is the document by which we have decided how to govern and how to be governed. So during that course, if you want that day, if you wanted to read a portion of the Constitution, you were able to sign up and do it. So I was fortunate enough to be, and it was just by happenstance, that I was selected to read the Second Amendment. And it was looking like it was going to happen for the 5 minutes leading up, but then someone read a couple extra lines, and then someone would read, a little less of one line, and it got to me, and just about every veteran legislator who was sitting near me, who'd been in Congress for a number of years, when I came back said, "How did you get to read the Second Amendment?" And I said, "Listen, I am from the live free or die state. Don't mess with us." So I was really fortunate, and it was a moment for me that I'll cherish and I'll remember for the rest of my life.
What does the Second Amendment mean to residents of the Granite State here?
The Granite State, Republican and Democrat, take the Second Amendment very seriously, believe in the right to bear arms, believe that every American has that right, and we do not want it infringed whatsoever. And we do take that seriously. Campaigns have been won or lost based on that one issue here in New Hampshire. So, and look, we don't get into the differences of, as you would hear from some say, well, I'm a hunter, therefore I'm a Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is not about hunting. The Second Amendment is about the right to bear arms, emboldened in our Constitution. We take that seriously. Every American should take that seriously, just like any other amendment of the Constitution.
You're talking about the Constitution earlier. Let's talk about what happened with President Obama and the recess appointments, recess appointments. When you hear stuff like that and there's supposed to be checks and balances, how does it make you feel personally, and what can you do as a group to fix this?
Well, what President Obama did is appoint several members, Richard Cadre, and then also members to the NLRB, while he referred to Congress as being in recess. The first thing is Congress is not in recess. We were in pro forma session. In order to be in recess, the House and the Senate need to have a joint resolution stating such. We did not do that. Pro forma means that you've got a member of each body coming in every few days, banging the gavel, recognizing that we can provide decisions on legislative business, whether by unanimous consent or by coming actually down to Washington. Interestingly, this approach was put in by the Democrats when President Bush was president to stop him from making recess appointments. And guess what? He honored the spirit of what was being done by the Congress. This president has said that it's a gimmick and that even though we're in pro forma, that we're not really in session. Therefore, he's got the right to make a recess appointment. And if you think historically on the Constitution, what the interpretation at the time was, Congress wasn't a full-time Congress. You'd go down for several months out of the year. You would travel by horse and buggy back to your home states. And the President of the United States still needed the authority to run the executive branch. Therefore, being allowed to have a recess appointment, I think, for the rest of the year. The reason for that, again, was transportation issues, was lack of capability of going back and forth. We now have the opportunity to do it. So the president, it's now been used to get an appointment through if the Senate doesn't concur. That is usurping the authority and the intent of the Constitution. Excuse me, it's wrong. President Bush didn't do it, with the exception of when they truly were on recess. And that's the way it should be done. If the president wants to make a recess appointment while we're on recess, I may not like who he's appointing, but he's got that right under the Constitution. But adhere to the rules, adhere to the, to the law, and do it properly. So we've got a couple of different options that we're looking at as the House of Representatives. One would being a lawsuit, two would being a resolution that disagrees with what he has done. But honestly, this needs to be part of the presidential debate, and it needs to be part of how voters consider what the responsibility is of the president, and is he usurping, our rights as Americans.
Last question. Also, something that we at NRA Newsfield needs to be part of the presidential debate is Fast and Furious. Not discussed enough. All the debates, 15 so far, there's been one question about Fast and Furious. You talk about a Department of Justice under Attorney General Holder. Talk to me about Fast and Furious. Talk to me about the issues and why isn't it discussed more on the campaign trail?
Well, essentially, Fast and Furious was a botched operation to take guns, give them back, illegal guns, to give them back to agents that would give them to drug dealers. And Eric Holder said he knew nothing about it. He's starting now to change his position on that. And for that alone, he should take responsibility. We need to be serious about law enforcement, but we also need to be serious about protecting individual rights. I was very disappointed how he handled this issue. This is one of many that I'm becoming disappointed in this Attorney General. And I would hope that he understands the Constitution and applies it appropriately. And if you make a mistake, the country is willing to accept when you make a mistake if you admit it and if you absolutely acknowledge it. But he is not willing to do that. And I think it's been pretty clear now that he did have knowledge through the emails that have been released. And he should just say it and say he made a mistake. It was a terrible mistake, and they should move on, put some new policies in place so it wouldn't happen again.
Congressman, thanks for your time. Enjoy the day.
Yeah, my pleasure. You too.